First of all, very important question, I guess, to be asked here. Is it an issue of talent or an issue of color? Ms. Dell.
I think it's an issue of access. I think that there are incredibly talented actors of all kinds of people of color actors, and I think that the opportunity for them to perform and the opportunity for them to perform in films that are given the wide viewing that happens with white-driven films is not the same. I think there are absolutely incredibly insanely talented actors. I don't think they're always given a chance to profile their skills in the way that white actors are.
Professor Chambers from Georgetown University, do you agree?
I agree wholeheartedly, and it's not just acting, it's directing, it's producing, it's writing, and getting new writers in the pipeline, so to speak. It's the technical aspects of film which make up a lot of the jobs in Hollywood that have nothing to do with being actually in front of the camera. Everything from gaffers to carpenters. And a lot of those people are in the academy, and a lot of those people are white and males and over 40 years old. So it's not just acting, it's this whole system and industry that really is not conducive to not just African Americans, but Asian actors, Latino actors, and people wanting to tell stories that are inclusive.
Yes, indeed.
So that's the problem. It is one of access, but I mean, at the root of access, and even some white American famous actors have said this, at the root of access is color.
On the other hand, Professor Chambers, is it realistic that when the American society as a whole is still struggling with racial issues, to expect Hollywood to be totally different?
Well, I believe that a lot of that is Hollywood's fault. Hollywood has, if you look at American political culture, almost set itself up as a very progressive, liberal, sometimes even left-leaning sort of institution, when in reality, when you look at even at the elite levels of say, actor pay, you have women who are superstars in America and superstars overseas who are making not making as much as probably their less talented white male co-stars. You have African Americans who were shut out. You have white males who are making the business decisions to greenlight, as they say, certain pictures, to hire certain people, to hire a whole technical staff on these pictures, and are not telling certain stories, which is why, ironically, a lot of very cutting-edge storytelling has migrated from movies to American television. And I think an argument can be made that American television now, it has much more better quality, talent, and diversity than the filmmaking industry, which is very strange.
I see. Ms. Dell, though, can change happen overnight? Can we expect the current nomination and the next year's nomination be totally different? Is it realistic?
I think that every industry is really slow to change. I think that the film and television industries are moving in the right direction, but no, I don't think that anything's going to happen overnight. I hope that everything that's happening now will push more attention to projects, will push more films, hopefully, into greenlight that give actors of color an opportunity to present themselves and to present their talents, because I think the talent is already there. It's presenting a stage for them to be visible in the world.
Access, both emphasized by the other two panelists, have been the issue. But will the access issue be changed overnight? That is a question I think we really need to discuss here. Professor Teng, given your knowledge of the American culture as a professor coming from China in that regard, meanwhile, the fact that Hollywood, especially the Oscar nomination committee, is trying to change the numbers, for example, of whites, for example, of minority and male and female, will that make a change to the eventual nominating process and nominating results?
Well, I think, like all political cultures in the United States, Hollywood is also part of this political culture. And so, in this sense, I think that change in terms of the structure, the organization, will help to improve the situation. For example, I mean, if you are given, for example, another 300 positions for, I mean, the nation's minorities, I mean, absolutely minorities will not be underrepresented. Right now, minorities, and not just African Americans, but also Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, for example, I mean, they're all underrepresented. And so I'm hoping that the structural change, the institutional and the voting change will contribute to improve that very situation.
Yeah. But on the other hand, Ms. Dell, there has been various debates in the world about quota system, whether that is the fair system or not to begin with, whether that could be certain kind of racial prejudice against any kinds of other races that we have mentioned. So what do you make of this change in the voters system when it comes to a quota? Will that change the picture? Eventually, what shall we rely on the real change of culture when it comes to racial equality in Hollywood?
I think that the changes that the Academy are making, I absolutely fully support the expansion of the Academy. I think that's essential. I think that people tend to gravitate towards people that look like them and feel like them, and they understand instinctively. And I think that's part of the real problem in the Hollywood system, is that it is run practically entirely by white men, and so they tend to want to support people who feel very comfortable to them, who are other white men. And the more you expand the Academy, the more you expand people who are looking to see the performances and to prioritize the performance of other talent in front and behind the camera that looks like them, that is comfortable to them. That being said, Hollywood is a very visible industry. We cannot be effectively colorblind because we make visual content. You see the actors, and I think it's correct that TV is leading the way right now. And as we see more content and more culture that reflects the America of today, I think there will be more understanding that content has a place and an audience and a business, and that more good business begets more business.
I see.
That my hope is that it really drives the change, although it will be gradual.
Ms. Teng?
Well, I think it's a changing situation, but then once again, there are vested interests of the whites, the WASP, let's say, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant segment within the Hollywood society, if it is a society representing the larger one in the United States. For example, I think that Ava DuVernay, the director of Selma, it's so outstanding, and her work has been nominated. Selma has been nominated, but once again, as a minority director, she has been, in a sense, looked down upon, basically repressed, and not be that very visual in Hollywood. A film about the political movement, the civil rights movement, which has not been recognized. The acting of David Oyelowo, so powerful. But then once again, I mean, with his male, white, and odd and old members of the Academy, I mean, everything was, that great work has been excluded.
All right. But there's one thing that's quite complicated, Professor Chambers. As we all know, when it comes to judgment about acting, when it comes to judgment of screenwriting, directing, it is very subjective rather than objective, a process when the judges make their decisions. So, Professor Chambers, will that really make a huge change when we talk about these quota systems? And will political efforts, in a way, really going to change the overall situation in Hollywood? Will talents, let's just say, from the white talents, for example, will they be depressed as a result of these kinds of quota system? This has been a quota system debate for every field, and people wonder whether this is also true in this regard, Professor Chambers.
Well, first of all, it's really not a quota. It's really expanding the membership and expanding access. But the more people you get involved, and again, I use American TV, American television, as the example because of further diversity, more people behind the camera, more people in front of the camera. you now have probably the best era in American television in 50 years of various diverse stories, of quality stories, of adventure or fantasy or very gritty real life, and it's because of that diversity with Asian Americans, with African Americans, Latinos, and particularly with women in front and behind the camera. So it's not really quota, it's really just more access, and when you get more access, you get more people looking at the decision-making process, because let's be frank, just because you are nominated for an Oscar, just because you win an Oscar, doesn't mean you're necessarily the best, because it is a very subjective process, true, and it is a political process within Hollywood to get people nominated, and it's a marketing process. I mean, I think we can agree that in America, just because somebody's elected president or elected a mayor or a senator doesn't mean they're the best candidate. But so there is that kind of a marketing machine behind a lot of these movies. But if you have a situation where somebody is nominated because the white male establishment in Hollywood just likes that person, that doesn't, you know, I think that more access, more diversity will have a damper on that, and it will give people more choice, and it will give more voices and different perspectives, and that's a good thing for Hollywood.
And Ms. Dell, before we go, final question for you. Fairness, access, how much can we expect things to change with the new policy?
I think that, you know, for the Oscar broadcast on the 28th, the nominees are announced, and that will be the contests that we see that play out in the next months. I think next year, the year following, who knows? I hope that all of this actually drives more projects into greenlight. It would be wonderful if this, you know, all of this controversy actually prod some studios into saying, you know, this is a great opportunity for us to do that project that we weren't sure about, and to highlight acting from people of color, to highlight talents of people of color. And so hopefully by next year there'll be a really interesting field of performances and of work to watch.